Hey guys, today I thought I would do something a little bit different. I would talk about the local salvage yards that I go to and rate them 1 through 5. The first salvage yard that I love to go to is on Winter Road in Kansas City, Missouri. It's called Pick and Pull. It's based in a really large old steel mill, so half of the cars are inside and half of the cars are outside. When we plan a day to go to the salvage yards in Kansas City, if it's going to rain, we plan to go in the building and work on those cars if we can get parts there. It's nothing quite like heavy rain on all the dock doors, but then you're inside, dry out of the rain, wrenching on cars. It's pretty amazing. It's the only yard I've ever been to that has an inside area. Number 2 would be the salvage yard I talk about called Car Country in Newton, Iowa. A lot of people would wonder why I put this second, considering that it's one of my favorites. Well, most salvage yards are on gravel. They take a steel wheel like this, and they take another steel wheel and they weld them together, and they put them on all 4 corners of the car so you can get underneath. Newton is not located on gravel. It's rolling hills and you're in the dirt, and when it rains, it's muddy. They have the largest selection of cars I've ever seen, upwards of 2,000 maybe. And the only problem is they're in the dirt. When they lay them down, they're in the dirt, so you can't really get underneath of them. What I mean by the amount of cars, if you need it, they have it. Almost anything you can think of, they have. But if you need something from underneath, you have to go find somebody on the yard who does the maintenance work, and he'll come over and they'll lift it up. But it's such a huge pain in the rear end. But they do have more of a selection than any place I've ever been. And if you want a certain car like a Toyota Camry, if they drop that Toyota Camry in one spot, it's not going to leave. Like, they very seldom crush anything out. Most salvage yards keep cars for about 90 days. And then after 90 days, those cars are picked over and then they crush them for the price of steel. The third yard that I like to go to is on 12th Street off of Rainbow Boulevard in Kansas City, Kansas. It's also a pick and pull. The reason I like to go to this salvage yard is because it seems like they have more expensive cars, a lot of European cars, Jaguars. My father-in-law has 2 Jaguars, so it's pretty nice to go there and get parts. My friend Joe, actually, we went down there and in my Volvo wagon, and he saw an Eagle Talon that he really liked, and they wouldn't let him test drive it, and he took a bit of a gamble on this car. Manual transmission. We didn't know if the brakes work, if the clutch worked, and sure enough, I followed him all the way home with this car that he bought on 12th Street, and it ended up being a daily car for him for about 3 years. The next salvage yard that I go to is called Wrench and Go. That's in Des Moines, Iowa. It's a smaller yard, but it's again another one of those yards that's on gravel where you can get underneath of things. They have usually a really good selection. One thing that it seems like they're really good at is they find collections. You know, if you go to a salvage yard and you find 7 Volkswagen air-cooled Carmen Gias, you know, no matter what the shape, you know that somebody had all those cars. And they managed to get these collection of cars out in the import salvage yard. Plus, when it comes to Fords, they tend to have more Fords. They have Chevys and Chryslers, but not as many, but they have Fords, and that's really helped me due to the fact that I have the Alice, my Police Interceptor Crown Victoria. I can get parts off of that. Lincoln Town cars, Cougars, Thunderbirds, Mustangs, they all have the same engine that I have, and they have lots and lots of Ford products, so that makes it better. The 5th salvage yard that I talk about is Pollards. Pollards Salvage is in Russel, Iowa. It's a smaller yard, and to get to it, you have to go down a pretty windy gravel road. And the driveway, you wouldn't even see the driveway if there's a big post in the ground. And then there's a turbo 350 Chevy transmission painted bright orange. That is the only way that you can find the yard. The quirky thing about that yard is, again, it's not gravel, it's rolling hills and pastures. A lot of bump side Ford trucks, Chevy square bodies. They have some newer stuff, but they have a lot of the older stuff there too. And it's funny because they have cattle that roam around in that same area. So if you get nervous around animals or large animals, that is not the place for you at all. I would say an honorable mention is Doug's four-wheelers in Pella, Iowa. It's off of Highway 163. He has almost anything you need for old classic cars from the 50s and 60s and 70s. You can go into the yard if you ask, but most of the time you would go in there and tell them what you needed, and then they would pick it for you. The only problem with Doug's is he knows that he has what people need. Unless they're going to have it shipped from down south, he has rust-free parts. And in Iowa, rust-free parts are as good as gold. But like I said, the only hitch with Doug's is it's very, very expensive. He knows what he has. You know, I'm always open to going to different salvage yards. You know, I go to salvage yards in Omaha. I go to salvage yards in Lincoln, Nebraska. There are some really good salvage yards down there. I should say over there. Arizona, when I go visit my father-in-law, there's some great salvage yards there. And of course, because it's Arizona, there's no rust on any of the vehicles. If I only had a moving van that I could bring stuff back, I would have tons of parts. I've been to salvage yards in Huntsville, Alabama. Same thing, they're virtually rust-free cars. But yeah, I would say that if you have a local salvage yard within maybe Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, if you're seeing this video and you have something, hit me up, put it in the comments. I wouldn't mind going to check it out. All right, guys, thanks a lot for today. See you later.